Gretna Green is known worldwide for its romantic connotations, but, as followers of this channel will know, it's rich in other kinds of history, particularly in the military field. There's been very little of interest at Carlisle in recent weeks, so, the weather being most agreeable, I thought I'd have a look at somewhere different. Something unspecified has been following my train all the way from Kilmarnock, en route to Leeds. Two other people are here to see it, one a railwayman, the other an enthusiast aiming to visit every station in Britain. I've no idea what it's going to be, but on this seriously underused line, anything different will be a welcome change. And here it comes.
And you?
Since the local service is provided exclusively by 156s, even a 158 is mildly exotic. And now, don my rucksack, pick up my tripod, and prepare for a hike.
A northern train doesn't come along.
I doubt if many passengers speeding by here on Avanti's Pendolinos or Transpennines Novas even spot this insignificant little waterway, let alone realise its importance. For believe it or not, this tiny burn is the border between England and Scotland. Yes, the tiny River Sark separates two countries, each with its own parliament, its own laws and different legal system, its own education system with different age ranges and examination systems, even its own religion. Scotland doesn't only export salmon and whisky. Electricity is a major export too. This is the interconnector carrying power at, I think, 450,000 volts, although some of the newer lines operate at 600,000 volts. I don't want my drone to get too close. The enormous building seen here, covering 18.5 acres, is an armed forces storage facility for engines and other large entities, not explosives. Explosives are always stored in small facilities well separated from one another, just in case. And there in the distance we can see rows of just such small storage buildings, carefully placed far enough away from each other to prevent a local accident from becoming a catastrophe. The Glasgow and South Western Main Line, originally from Glasgow's St Enoch terminus, joins the old Caledonian Main Line here at Gretna Junction. The South Western track singles just before the junction, so southbound trains have to run briefly on the northbound Caledonian rails before crossing over onto the southbound. The Stolway Firth at low tide. The main line has travelled due north for the 10 miles from Carlisle, but now swings round to head west and approaches the site of Britain's worst ever railway disaster. 226 people died here at Quintinshill on Saturday the 22nd of May 1915, when a loaded troop train sped head-on into a stationary local train, which was then hit by an overnight sleeper train. I've dealt with this in an earlier video. The Pendolino passes the site of the old Quintinshill signal box before plunging into the cutting at Blacksyke Wood. ScotRail's hourly shuttle approaches on its way to Dumfries. Alternate trains continue for the long and scenic journey via Nithsdale and Kilmarnock to Glasgow. The single junction means that the southbound shuttle is held, waiting for a clear exit. Scottish cows, English sheep. The old Gretna station closed in 1951. This was purely a junction station with no local community to serve. We've already seen the two routes to the north. To the south of the station, the North British Railway had a short branch leading to Longtown, where it connected with the Waverley line to Edinburgh. One of these houses behind the station was occupied by the unfortunate James Tinsley, who left home at 6 a.m. that May morning to hitch a lift on David Wallace's Cardine locomotive as far as his workplace, Quintinshill signal box, where he brought about the greatest tragedy our railways have seen in their entire history in these islands. The curved line of trees heading away beneath the interconnector marks the track of the old North British Railway. The Saturday timetable offered little but a succession of Pendolinos, Novas and ScotRail 156s. A Tesco freight train was scheduled, but sat for 23 minutes at Upperby Junction, waited in the Citadel station, and then headed into the yard for a crew change as I drained the drone's battery waiting for it to arrive. It did arrive eventually, but I was at home by then. It was over 4 hours late. These did pass through while I had the drone on the ground. Probably the most interesting activity of the day.
Max altitude reached.
There's Gretna Green station, where my video began, sitting beside the A75 road, which travels 100 miles across Galloway to reach Stranraer. The station was closed in 1965, along with so much of the railway network. 10 years later, British Rail singled the line between here and Annan. The station reopened as a single-track halt in 1993, but the booming coal traffic between the Ayrshire coalfield and the Yorkshire power stations led to the eventual redoubling of the section, a 2-year undertaking. Sadly, the coal traffic has disappeared and the line is now very quiet. As the Dumfries train departs from Gretna Green, we get a fine view of Criffel Hill to the south of Dumfries. Although I'd argue strongly that the West Coast Main Line is a far more scenic route than the East Coast, the name is somewhat questionable. West Coast passengers only catch 2 very brief glimpses of the sea, at Hestbank in Lancashire and here at Gretna, and unless they're very alert, they'll miss them both. The East Coast route, with no mountains and few hills, at least offers coastal scenery in its northern stretches. The River Esk flows out into the Solway.
Return to home.
Well, if I'm to avoid an expensive taxi home from Dumfries, I'd better head for an early train. Pack all the kit, a couple of miles hike, stopping for an ice cream, and by good fortune rather than good planning, a train, a very crowded 2-car train, arrives just 4 minutes after me at the station. So, thanks for watching, and here's to the next time.